Hello, everybody. I'm Sean Reynolds from Sports and about to be joined by Ken Wiebe from the Winnipeg Free Press. Together, we are Kenny and Renny, and this is the Kenny and Renny show after. Exciting game, folks. Exciting game. I'm starting to see a lot of action. I'm starting to see a lot of parade routes being planned. People are getting excited. The Stanley Cup champs from 2 years ago, the winners of the Central Division last year, the current leaders in the Central Division, the Colorado Avalanche, and they go down. Before we get to going too quickly here, I've worn this before. This is a TCB jersey. I know some people are going to be up in arms thinking it's a Leafs jersey. Let's all just pump the brakes and calm down here. Maybe pumping the brakes is a theme for what's going on here. I know that someone was talking, people are pretty excited, and we all know Renny loves being the fun police, right? Loves coming in, quashing everyone's excitement. I'm here to tell you right now, if you are a fan of this Winnipeg Jets team and you're thinking of getting really excited, I think you probably should. I'm going to be honest. I'm going to say that. I like so much about that game. The one thing I will say, and I was having a conversation with someone before this, was the Winnipeg Jets have been here before, right? And I know a lot of people are saying, when are the Winnipeg Jets going to get their due? When are they going to start being talked about like they're one of the upper echelon teams here? And I hear a lot of people thinking that it's unfair and so on and so forth. And I would just like to remind people who've got like the kind of the Winnipeg complex in the small town, and no one gives us this opportunity, and the kind of people who are always constantly saying Kyle Connor is underrated and how do people not know about this guy and all this kind of stuff. Let's keep in mind the Winnipeg Jets have been a favorite and a Stanley Cup favorite of a lot of media types for a lot of years since 2018. Like, we're 2 years removed from Frank Saravelli, one of the strongest voices in hockey, of declaring at the beginning of the year he thought the Winnipeg Jets were going to win the whole thing. I guess my argument would be for anyone who's saying, oh, the Winnipeg Jets aren't getting their due. The Winnipeg Jets for a number of years have been a very, very capable team and have had a lot of believers and then kind of burnt people for that belief. Let's go back to January of last year, leading the entire Western Conference. And all of a sudden the bottom fell out, right? So I would almost argue for all those who out there who are saying that the Jets don't get enough respect and they don't get enough play and not enough people are giving them their due. I would argue that this Jets team that I think everyone would agree has chronically underachieved for a number of years since 2018 has actually had a lot of faith in it for a team that seemed to chronically underachieve. So I'm just going to quash that. I'm not a big believer in the whole Jets aren't getting their due thing. This would be this game here, other than I guess maybe the Florida Panthers game. We're starting to see examples of a Jets team jumping out against teams that are above it in the standings. So now 2 straight wins like that, right? Keep in mind, they've lost 2 games against the Dallas Stars. They've lost 2 games against the Golden Knights. They lose that game against the Kings. I'm not trying to poo-poo this. I'm saying one of the storylines that we've talked about coming into this is the Jets need to start beating teams above them in the standings, and we get that in these last 2 games. Now, I take a look at this game, and I see this is almost a carbon copy of the victory that they had over the Carolina Hurricanes, right? Jump up to an early lead. I'm not saying the first period's anywhere the same. The Jets were far more balanced tonight than they were against the Carolina Hurricanes. But it's a similar game in that they take a team that is not going to allow them that dominant, disproportionate balance in puck possession and all these things. Again, if you're going to run some stuff here, you got to move it along here. But anyway, the whole idea of the Jets and this game being very similar to that last game, what I like about it is it's almost kind of a reaction I see these last 2 games to that game against the Edmonton Oilers, in which the Jets had a lead, blew it late, went out and lost that game in regulation, and B, a response to the 2 Dallas games that they played earlier this year, where Dallas kind of did to the Jets what the Jets just did against the Carolina Hurricanes and against the Colorado Avalanche, where they took a really good team that has the ability to press teams that are very strong offensively and went into them and said, we're going to get the lead on you. We're going to make it really, really hard to score. We're going to counterpunch in the moments in the game and try and extend our lead. But what we're really going to do is we're going to be able to practice going into a defensive shell and win these types of game in a different style. Now, the reason that's important, Rick Bowness, when I had asked him about, a game against the Dallas Stars, that game against the Edmonton Oilers, games that you can't expect them to outpossess the team by wide margins, right? Because other teams are good and they're going to hold on to the puck. The Jets were having a hard time winning those games, right? Well, what he said they need to do is he said they've got to get the lead. And at the time, I thought that seemed really simplistic, right? Oh, well, we just get the lead and everything's going to be fine. It didn't seem to make sense to me. After these last couple of games, it makes sense, because what Rick Bowness is trying to build in is the Jets' ability to outpossess other teams, like we've seen in games. Like we saw them do it against the Coyotes, saw them do it against the Blues, where they just roll over a team and roll over them, and their 5-on-5 metrics are just absolutely outstanding. And they win games by every stretch of the imagination, on the scoreboard, in the fancy stats categories, in the analytics, all those different kind of things, shot metrics, block shots, all those different kind of things, right? But what I think the Jets are doing here is they're adding something into the toolkit that I think would be very, very valuable and very, very useful come the playoffs. When you're playing a hot team, kind of think of what the Vegas Golden Knights did to the Jets in 2018, a superior team. Get the lead on them, make it really, really hard for them to score on you, get their skis tilted downhill so that they're just focused on scoring their way back into the game, and then counterpunch, catch them. Okay, they haven't defended for a while. Their goalie hasn't spent a lot of time. That's what we see here tonight, right? We basically see, all of a sudden in that period when they're pushing, Josh Morrissey goes out and scores that goal to make it a 3-1 game. And in the end, that is all that they would need, the Jets, on this night. I just think that what we saw is 2 back-to-back games against upper echelon talent, teams that we view as being maybe top 5 teams in the NHL, for sure top 10. The Jets went in against those teams and had a very specific style where what they tried to do is they protected the house. They didn't want to allow the first goal, went out and got the first goal, and then took that, just like the Dallas Stars did to them, and ground the other team down, made them feel that they needed to jump out of their structure to score, capitalized on them jumping out of that structure to score more goals. Think of how wide open Josh Morrissey is on that third goal. There's no one near him. It's a breakdown. So capitalize on those breakdowns and then move into a situation where you are basically adding to the score when you need to, but really at all costs kind of protecting home plate and making sure that you're not giving up grade A's. It's worked twice in a row now. I wouldn't suggest this is the kind of game you try and win every single time. I'd still like to see the Jets getting back to possessing the puck a little more often, but having this kind of ability to play these kind of teams and shut them down offensively after you or with your defense after you've got the lead is something Rick Bowness, from the conversations I had with him, I didn't see it then, I see it now. He clearly wanted to add this in the toolkit. The Jets, in my mind, have done it. It makes them that much more dangerous of a team and that much more a team that you should have belief in. A lot of people have belief planning the parade routes. I would just say this: the Jets have been in first place before. This is game 25. It's great that they beat this team. It's great that they're in the hunt for leading the Central Division. But I think probably if you're worried about the Jets not getting respect, they'll get respect if they're sticking around this spot or in this spot or ahead of these teams at the end of the season. Game 25, if you're going to hang up the banner, you're acting like the Nashville Predators that one year when they were doing nothing but hanging up banners. Anyways, that's my take on the whole thing. Time to bring in my main man, Ken Wiebe, for his take on the whole thing. Live from down in Arizona with a sweet, sweet ride in the background. Everybody, here comes Kenny. Kenny, I don't know that there's anyone in this world that gets me better than T. Will, who says, I'm convinced Renny is only throwing a party on Sunday just so he can cancel the party and squash everyone's fun. I think you're muted there, my man. I'm not sure. But I will say this. There is a part of me that when I see people getting like super excited planning the parade route, keep in mind, Rennie spent some time in Toronto when he was at Ryerson University working on his journalism degree. And I very much saw what it was like for people to get super excited at moments that, weren't necessarily that. I don't want people to take away from this, and I don't think people should be excited. They should be extremely excited about this. And I never tell anyone how to fan. You should be excited at this every moment in time. I guess I'm just trying to caution people and say, the Jets were here last year. The proof is in the pudding. So what I think is Jets fans and the Jets themselves should carry themselves with a heavy swagger in this moment, but with maybe a little bit more of a quiet confidence that says we know that the biggest test is down the road for us.
Yeah, completely fair. I mean, this is not the same team as last year. Connor Hellebuck made that pretty clear in his post-game chat with Mike McIntyre, my colleague from the Free Press. He had no interest in going down that road, but I mean, if you're Rick Bowness, you can't ignore that either. Yes, it is a new year. Connor's right, but you can't ignore the ghosts of Christmas past completely here because it's been part of the story. It's part of the history. It's part of everything. The Jets can't run away from it. And the only way they can erase those chapters is by writing a new chapter here this year. So, yeah, they're in a good spot. They're 2 points out of first place. They have a game in hand.
Yeah.
The Colorado Avalanche
of Dallas, yeah.
Right. So, I mean, the Jets are in a good spot. They're playing great hockey. But again, before we're going to crown them as an elite team, you don't do that after one win over an elite team. And right now, the Avalanche are going through it. This is going to sound crazy because the Avalanche are in first place in the Central. But in talking to some people who covered the team today, they're not feeling like an elite team, and that was one of the things that came out of today. So, I love watching Nathan MacKinnon. Sean, you and I were there to witness his greatest feat as a National Hockey League player to date. In the Stanley Cup Final in 2022. He is a beast. He is so fun to watch. When he comes at you at full speed, you best be moving and not flat-footed, or you're going to end up on a highlight reel, as we'll talk about later on. But the Jets are playing good hockey. There is no disputing that. They were very good 5-on-5. Yes, did they give up a few chances? Of course they do. Guess what? If you play against Mikko Rantanen, Nathan MacKinnon, and Cale Makar, even if Makar is coming off an injury, there will be chances given up. But, we were talking about this in the intermissions. The Jets were pretty sound overall defensively, and I think it's impressive to see what they're doing right now. But it's 25 games, so let's see it for 50, then let's see it for 60, then let's see it for 82. And then it'll be up for the Jets to show what they can do when the chips are down, because let's face it, that's when teams are judged, Sean. And, of late, the Jets have not taken care of their end of the bargain when it comes to playoff hockey. So they're building towards playoff hockey. If they continue to build the way that they have through 25 games, there's going to be playoff hockey played in Winnipeg. And if they play like this and continue to play better against elite teams, they can play multiple rounds. That's the kind of team that they have. So we're not here to, rain on anyone's parade.
I'm here to do that, Ken. Let's get that straight. I'm here to do that. But you're not.
That's not the Sean that I know. That's not the
Sean you've got a convertible. You can't be praying for rain, okay? So you don't need to worry about it. Rennie's nice under
I'm coming home tomorrow. Don't worry, buddy. I'm coming home tomorrow. So it's my week has gone by very well. But, fun game to watch. I do think there were some moments in the game where the Jets got a little bit loose, but not structurally. There was a push. There was a push by the Avalanche, which you completely expected would happen. But rather than fold in a moment where, they gave up that late goal in the second, that, Sean, is an example of in the past, we have seen Jets teams, yes, they scored one with 2.2 seconds to go in the first, and that was a big goal for them in a period where they played very well. But they gave up one in the last minute of the second. All of a sudden, instead of a 2-goal lead, things are getting tight. How will the Jets respond? Oh, man, there's 2 people in the penalty box for 47 seconds. And all of a sudden, the Jets are facing a high-end power play, and you're wondering if they're going to survive the power play. They do, and they got better as the game went on, and lo and behold, they posted an important victory. But let's not kid ourselves. The Jets' record against high-end teams and division leaders this year is pretty poor up until today. So this is an important win for them. Yes, they beat Florida when Florida was playing well. It was early, but it was an important win for them. Florida's a playoff team right now. Carolina is a playoff team. Today, that's a team that is going to definitely be in the playoff mix. The Colorado Avalanche are a high-end playoff team that is leading the division. So that's the kind of game the Jets needed to have. And I love that they're not hiding from it, Sean. Rick Bowness very much upfront about this at the morning skate in his conversations, again, with Mike McIntyre and the people who are on the scene in Denver. I love Adam Lowry talking about it in the post-game show. If you want to be an elite team, you want to be the best, you got to beat the best. So the Jets are starting to compile their own list of receipts against high-end teams, and they needed to do that.
Yes.
I mean, people can say whatever they want. No, is Colorado at full strength? No, they're not. But Landeskog is not coming to be the savior this year. He's out of the lineup. They missed Nichushkin tonight. Absolutely right. But the Jets played without Gabriel Velarde for 17, 18 games. So guess what? It's a fact of life for all teams in the NHL. You don't discount this win. It's an important one on the road. Sean, we've been there. The two-time Stanley Cup champion Tampa Bay Lightning, they dealt with altitude in games 1 and 2 in Colorado in 2022, and they got their asses kicked in game 2 to the point where we wondered if it would be a sweep. They go home, they win game 3. So this is hockey. If you're a good team, if you're an elite team, you take a punch, you get up and go. Jets have done a great job. They've been knocked to the mat a few times by some high-end teams, but now they're starting to punch back, and today's game is the kind of structured game that can allow them to have success against those high-end teams. Now, let's see. They got a few days off. They've got 3 games in California. Yep, the San Jose Sharks are not the same doormat they were at the start of the year. They put up 6 today. They won in overtime. I got to say, the blue buckets with the white jerseys for the Sharks right now, we're not going to see them this week, but it is crisp. I love that.
Nicest jersey in the
absolutely
NHL right
looking
now.
good.
My goodness.
I love the teal buckets. Absolutely awesome. But yeah, the Jets have a really interesting week ahead, and they can't afford to look past either Anaheim or San Jose. But let's not kid ourselves. Who's not looking forward to the next game against the LA Kings, especially after the spicy commentary from Gabriel Velarde about his former teammate Blake Lizotte, who he was not thrilled at when he spoke for the first time after coming back from the injury. He didn't like the play, and I'm not saying that he's going after him or anything else, but that was something that I certainly was not anticipating from Gabriel Velarde. He's been pretty laid back in his time with the Jets so far. He didn't like the play at all, so I would imagine there could be some retribution sought at some point. I mean, I'm not saying they're going to try to run him out of the rink, but anyways, that game against the Kings is going to be fantastic. LA looks like an elite team. They're definitely an elite team right now. So, yeah, this trip is setting up to be very interesting. This was a fun game to watch. Would have been even more fun inside the building, Sean. We bit one of the best atmospheres in the NHL in Denver. So, fun game, lots for the Jets to build on, some things to clean up, but a couple of very important things. Connor Hellebuck rock solid again. 32 saves, another really good game. 2 or fewer allowed, just like that. Like we said 2-3 weeks ago, goodbye to sub 900 save percentage and say goodbye to inflated goals against average, even though we know in some regards that's a team stat.
Great trip to the buffet there, Ken. Loving it. I wanted to get in as crisp as this looks. The Vittorio Rossi look is about as crisp as it gets. It is the equivalent of the Winnipeg San Jose kits with the teal buckets. Neither of us representing the suit kind of look very well, but people have well known how we do look when we do that, looking gorgeous with the Vittorio Rossi clothes. And if you want to look like that, what you got to do is head down to Corden Avenue, loudly proclaim when you walk into Vittorio Rossi that Kenny and Renny sent you. Ask for Frankie and the boys, and they will do you up right. Head on down to see them, because they're absolutely the best in Winnipeg at what they do. A couple things here. It's been asked early, so let's get at it. Let's take this and turn it into an early headband version, Sean's headband version of the Kenny and Renny show. Let's get at it. Someone had said it earlier on about me being a driver's ed type of instructor, because I'm the kind of person who always needs to pump the brake, even when I'm in the other seat there. And I'll be honest, I am, right? Because the one thing that I don't think is necessarily the best look is people who are like constantly beating their chest when things kind of go good. Like, we know from years and years and years of promising looking Winnipeg Jets teams, they've shown how many different ways things can seemingly go wrong, right? So I think right now, what I take away, if someone has asked me about the Winnipeg Jets, I'll say it's a little bit like those teams, like let's say the Carolina Hurricanes, perfect example. We know what the Carolina Hurricanes are capable of doing as a team. We know what they look like in the regular season. The true test for the Carolina Hurricanes, in my mind, are having continued playoff success, like getting a little bit deeper, because it seems like they always get in every year and then things kind of really fall apart. Now, I guess they did go to a conference final last year. That's as far as the Winnipeg Jets have ever been. But I just thought that the way that they went kind of out with a whimper in the playoffs last year means like it's like those old San Jose Sharks teams from years ago, Ken. Like, they were so good so many years. Everyone was always picking them to win the cup, and it just never came to fruition. I guess I'm just saying it's, like, let's go and move to the show me state, right? Because at this stage with the Winnipeg Jets, the Jets have shown me in the past that at various points of regular seasons in a number of years past, they can be the kind of team that looks like they're threatening. They did it in the Canadian division. They did it last year. Sparky says Bones has Jets playing the way he had Dallas playing when they went there. Interesting take on that. I think that mirrors the point I made of the Jets taking a look at the losses that they had against Dallas this year and saying, okay, well, they did that to us. That's a great tool to have in their back pocket. Let's add that tool in our back pocket. And they've won 2 straight games doing that. But I guess what I'm saying is that, like, we know that the Winnipeg Jets are a team capable of hanging around near the top of their division, even the top of their conference in season. They did it last year. Really, in the end, once they got playing like this, no one should be surprised that the Winnipeg Jets are in a position to do that. What they should be looking for is saying, okay, we know you're capable of this. We're waiting to see what the next step is, right? Because that's the thing that people have been waiting for with the Jets. I guess that's maybe the point I was taking, because some people have been talking to me and saying they don't get any respect. They just beat this team. The whole hockey world should be talking about them. Well, no, like in the meantime, like you'd said, the LA Kings are doing really special things. The Boston Bruins are still hanging around. The New York Rangers are doing some pretty crazy stuff. The Edmonton Oilers have woken up and are looking dangerous again. Lots of different teams to talk about. I guess the point is, if you want the hockey world talking about the Winnipeg Jets, then what the Winnipeg Jets need to do is not only prove that they can hang around the top, they need to differentiate themselves and put themselves above like they did in 2018 would be my take on that. Anyway, one thing I want to make clear, the last game that they played the Carolina Hurricanes, I thought they were the second best team in that game, but they found a way to survive. I don't think that tonight. I thought the Winnipeg Jets were the better team. I thought almost every time Adam Lowry's line was out there, they were the better line in that matchup. I thought for the vast majority of the game, Mark Scheifele's line was the better line. The fourth line was absolutely phenomenal. Defense-wise, to me, the most impressive defenseman in the game is not Cale Makar. It's not Devon Toews. It's Josh Morrissey. Yeah. The better goaltender, clearly to me in this game, is Connor Hellebuyck. Now, the Winnipeg Jets may have, squeaked out it's a 4-2 win. It's an empty net. They may have squeaked out a 3-2 win. but they're the better team in this game. They're the more deep team. I think if you're a Jets fan, you look at this game and you think, I like the way this shapes up if you end up getting in a battle with the Colorado Avalanche down the stretch. Because listen, without Gabriel Landeskog there, this is an entirely different team. You'd talked about it. Thomas Tatar is not the kind of player that scares me. Drouin, I thought, Ken, was a real weak spot on that power play. Again, I want to reiterate, the Winnipeg Jets were the better team in this game, and I have reason to believe that they're the better hockey club when it comes to especially depth. And you had texted me and you'd said Nathan MacKinnon's going to get 10 minutes of ice time in this third period. And my response was, well, as long as they keep him to the outside the way they're doing, it's going to be 10 minutes of wasted time. Now, I don't want to besmirch him because I had also said to you, listen, if this is a world where Connor McDavid doesn't exist, we are looking at Nathan MacKinnon, and he is wowing us time and time again. Like, he's doing stuff. Like the only reason they're in this game is because Nathan MacKinnon wows them back into that game with a gorgeous walk on Stanley, and then an unbelievable pass to Rantanen in front of the net. Other than that, this is a 3-0 game. And the Winnipeg Jets have handled their business tidily. They took on a little bit of a force of nature and still came out on top. So again, I know people are saying that, and sometimes, let's be honest, sometimes Renny likes to play the bad guy. He likes to, pump the brakes, get people wound up. This was not a case where the Jets weren't the best team in this game. They were. And I thought they had the better game plan as well. I will say this. I want to turn to this. Someone had said earlier on where they thought the game turned was that 5-on-3. It's hard to argue that. This is where I think the game turned. And for me, it's the pristine wake-up call of the game is Devon Toews in the first period. So to the point I'm making, the Jets really want to try and get that lead against teams like that and turn things around. This is crazy to me. The face-off is in the Jet zone. There's 19 seconds left. Adam Lowry wins it. It makes its way down the ice.
Gustafsson won the draw.
Gustafsson won the draw. Sorry, and we'll get to Gustafsson because he's extremely worth talking about in this game. But the internal clock in Devon Toews has to be like surprised that there's still time on it. He gets the puck, and he turns it over to AJF, who gives it to Adam Lowry. It's in the back of the net with 2 seconds left. This is the simplest play in hockey. You grab the puck and you stand there and you do nothing with the puck in the corner. You don't need to move it anywhere. That player needs to come to you to get it from you. It's going to take some time for him to get it off you. You kill the clock. Why he throws it up the boards is absolutely crazy. But Ken, I will say this. There's a reason that puck goes in the net, and a reason the Winnipeg Jets should be praised in that case, because the vast majority of teams would have stopped skating down the ice to pressure Devon Toews, because they would have thought, but Rick Bowness has this team so on its toes that they are contesting every single puck until that whistle blows. And in this case, AJF goes flying in there, and the does not compute light went off in Devon Toews because he's thinking to himself, why is this guy still coming? There's no time left on the clock. He panics, turns it over. It's a very un-Devon Toews type play. And it definitely, for me, earns the pristine wake-up call. But give credit to the Jets where it's due. Their hustle results in a goal that never should have happened. And to me, it's the difference in this game because it allows the Jets to play their style of game, to not risk opening up. It allows them to protect the house and win a second straight game in the exact same way. So again, the pristine roofing wake-up call for me goes to Devon Toews. You know what that means. It's time to give North End Rick the pristine roofing wake-up call. Give him a call, 1-204-981-6289, any time of day if you have any roofing, siding, exterior needs. He's the guy to call to, or you can call Pristine Roofing themselves at 1-204-237-7663. Ken, what are your takeaways? I mean, I feel pretty strongly the Jets were the better team in that game. Am I missing something there? Is there something that they were kind of falling down on?
No, I mean, Sean, we've been in that building when the Avalanche crank it up and go into warp speed mode and just spend minutes on end cycling and spinning and getting 8 grade A scoring chances on one single shift. In fact, it was the Jets who had the spin cycle going at times. They had a shift, I think, in the second period where the Logan O'Connor line was out there for more than 2 minutes in a shift. They couldn't get out of their own end and they couldn't get off the ice. So, no, I mean, I think the Jets, I don't think it was, head and shoulders. I don't think they didn't skate the Avalanche into the ground, but that's not the style you play against the Avalanche if you're trying to win as a road team. So I thought the Jets were very good. Overall, I thought that they were full value in this victory, and Nathan MacKinnon is a ridiculous player, right? I mean, the pass he makes to Joel Kiviranta for the second goal, he gets hit along the boards by Brendan Dillon. He keeps his balance, kind of lost the puck, finds it, then finds Kiviranta. And here's the crazy part about that play. If Kiviranta misses it, it's Josh Manson is there to one-time it. So he basically he created a wide open net for two people on the same play, and Kiviranta kind of beat Manson to the puck. So, outside of the outstanding performance from Nathan MacKinnon, I saw a team that had a lot of passengers out there for the Avalanche.
God, yeah.
I know Ryan Johansson has 9 goals this year, which is third on the Avalanche, but man, I didn't, and I'm a fan of Ryan Johansson's game. I like the pickup by Chris McFarland, but I did not notice Ryan Johansson almost at all. Ross Colton I noticed a little bit, but it was not vintage Avalanche, but that was because of how the Jets played them, Sean. I agree. They were definitely the better team. They were very deserving. Now, again, they're going to have to do this when it counts. We're going to see them again in just over 1 week's time in Winnipeg for the only visit of the year, in a weird year where the Jets only have to play the Avalanche 3 times. But these two teams play again in April, and no one will be surprised if they play in April in a playoff series. It'll be important for both teams. Like, if you want to go on a run, let's not kid ourselves. Any team who wants to come out of the Central is going to have to beat one of Winnipeg, Colorado, or Dallas.
Yeah.
And Arizona's playing great, so we're not discounting them. But any team is going to have to go through the Central, is going to have to beat some combination of those teams, and then we'll see what happens overall. But yeah, it's an interesting time. You touched on Gustafsson. I thought the fourth line was fantastic.
Maybe
really
their best
great
game of the year.
Probably their best game of the year. And we know it's reflected in the ice time. 12, 13 minutes for of Barron, AJF, and David Gustafsson. We know that Rick Bowness shouted out all 3 of his 4 lines. One of them was the second line he did not shout out. Didn't like their game at all. Sean, you're talking about not having victory laps before. Well, we talked in the second intermission, and by the time the third period started, Rick Bowness, I was joking to you. I think maybe Jason Bukala left a message in the coach's office in between periods, and Alex Iafallo was back on that line with Cole Perfetti and Gabriel Velarde.
Let me get here. So for those who didn't follow along, and I will say this, congratulations, because there's a number of people online who actually jumped on it when it
immediately.
Happened. Renny has been asking for the third line to be broken up, and usually, listen, I get what Kenny's saying.
You've been carving me, buddy. You've been carving me about that one.
Yes, I have, but I understand
relentlessly.
The take of what you're saying is that essentially Appleton and Lowry have the anchor on the third line that allows you to kind of continue that. Nino Niederreiter is the kind of player that you can take and move on any line and will be a valuable player and may actually spark that line, but even worse, make them a more structurally sound and difficult to play on line, while at the same time making them score more. So if you were on the last show, Jay Bukala had completely sided with Renny, which I think is a very smart tactic, if I'm being honest with people out there, and said, do not break up that line. They break up that line, move Nino to the second line, and it results in like one shift or a couple of shifts, game-winning goal. One shift. They're batting 1,000. Ken Wiebes, the numbers back up Ken Wiebe. He's batting 1,000 on this, ladies and gentlemen. If you move Nino Niederreiter to another line, they're going to score every single time they are on the ice, or something along those lines. I'm not making fun of Ken here. Ken pointed out something. He pointed out something that to a degree was a risk to suggest. And tonight, what we see is a game-winning goal that shows that Ken was onto something, or at the very least kind of proved to a degree the theory that he's been throwing out there. So I guess what Ken is trying to tell you is Jay Bukala, this super hockey mind who worked in the league.
Now. No, don't be going there now, buddy. Don't be going there.
I'm kidding. I am honestly. I'm busting your balls a little bit here, but I'm trying to give you praise. Like, Ken, what happened tonight is what you envisioned. is what won the Jets the game here tonight. And I know you're joking that Jay Bukala couldn't let it sit, and he had to give Bones a call in the second intermission and kind of bring peace back to the force here. But I will say this: I'll always call a spade a spade. Your receipt had looked like something that if you brought it back into the store, you weren't getting anything back on it. You got something back on it tonight, my man.
Well, and I mean, I think, as I've been telling you the whole time, it has less to do with wanting to break that line up than to trying to get something a little bit more consistent out of that second line, because the Jets can't win if they don't have... You can have all the depth that you want, Sean, but if the second line can't be even or outscore the opposition's second line, then you can't win 4 rounds. So that was my whole point. I would also, some folks have been pointing out, and not me, but the folks who pay attention or closer attention to the underlying numbers have also suggested that the Lowry line has had a little bit of a dip in the last stretch. So even just for them to get a little bit something fresh on that line, and also too, in talking with Adam Lowry, he kind of felt, he loves playing with Nino Niederreiter, don't get me wrong, but when I was doing a story on IXL, a follow on the last trip, and Adam had said to me, he was just starting to figure out how Iafallo played, and then Iafallo went up and played on the top line. So it's something that I think they have that club in their bag. If they want to switch it up and see what happens, we'll see. No surprise, and it's just there, Sean. And this goes back to kind of your point from a long time. Cole Perfetti has been playing excellent hockey, but right now the transition to the middle. Again, here's another night where, Velarde's taking a ton of draws, and I think that I wouldn't call it uncertainty, but, the positionless hockey and kind of playing the hybrid, I think is probably not ideal for Cole Perfetti right now. Like, he was playing so well on the wing. It's not to say he can't play center, but right now there's still a line in transit almost, if you will. Like, they're... And also, too, like Velarde, it's still going to take him some time. He's gotten up to speed quickly, but Sean, we know this. Anyone who comes back from an injury, you're fired up for your first couple games, and then all of a sudden, you're playing catch up. You don't just get up to speed after 2 games when you miss 18 or 17. So it's going to take some time. It's going to take. I still see a lot of great plays from Gabriel Velarde. But right now, that was the one line that didn't really have a lot going for it this evening.
Yeah.
And, they're going to have to pick, if they want to beat LA or they want to, you're going to have to go up against Kopitar, Danault, and Dubois. You're going to need Cole Perfetti going. You're going to need Gabriel Velarde playing at his peak. So I just was in favor of trying a couple other things because you need to find out what you have. If you want to keep them together during the stretch run and into the playoffs, by all means. But right now, I think a guy who scores like Nino Niederreiter has over the course of his career can help spark things. And yeah, today it sort of worked out for them for sure. And, the benefactor was Morrissey. But Sean, I have to point out on this play, a lot of people missed it. Gabriel Velarde has an incredible back check that starts the play before the Jets get going north. It was a really good play inside the defensive blue line. Again, not in the screen. It won't show up on the score sheet. But if Velarde doesn't have that back pressure, the Jets maybe are stuck in their own end and they're not going north and getting an opportunity for that game winner to be scored. So I just wanted to point that out. Even on a night where it was tough for that line, on a lot of fronts, Gabriel Velarde makes one of the most important plays of the game because of back pressure. And that's something that he was taught by in the Todd McClellan system, but it's what Rick Bowness wants his players to be doing frequently, and they're doing it with more frequency, which is why they're having this type of success. The Scheifele line has been fantastic. Yes, we talked about it for a while. Kyle Connor went 6 without. Well, guess what? He got 2 today. He's up to 17. Second in the NHL. So back rolling again. Ehlers really fitting in on that line. Mark Scheifele playing that two-way hockey that we've been talking about him needing to play. And lo and behold, the Jets had another important game.
I just, because we're losing time here like crazy, I just want to touch on a couple of things here quickly. So again, Perfetti, the idea of him kind of hybrid moving back to center. I will say this, I wasn't sure about it because I kind of thought that what the Jets were doing was kind of trying to sneak it under the radar and kind of move him back to center without the kind of hoopla that goes with, okay, they're putting him back to center. Is it going to work this time? So that he didn't have to be like, if it didn't work out again. But I asked, this was before Rick Bowness had come back. I asked Scott Arniel about it and kind of said, "Hey, are you kind of doing this?" He was not afraid to say that they did not like how the Cole Perfetti experiment went. I'm not saying they didn't like Cole Perfetti, but they were making it clear that they thought that the ask at that time showed that it was too big for him. So this is something like the idea of him going to that spot. The Jets before didn't think that he was ready for it. When I suggested that they were kind of slowly moving Nemesnikov to the wing, he kind of shook his head at that. Like Nemesnikov, he had said was like too important to that line and carried too much of the weight to not be considered at center. And I would argue what we're seeing right now with that line not being as kind of on top and razor sharp as it had been, to me, it looks that line the last little bit is missing Vladdy Nemesnikov. I'll say that. Like Vlad Nemesnikov, again, I've said this before, is probably the guy at some point he's going to be the odd man out. But this is almost one of these problems, and maybe the good to have problem. I don't know if Iafallo makes it all the way back down to the fourth line, but right now that line to me, if I'm taking a look and I'm trying to fit someone back in, I think at this stage I'd rather have Velarde there alongside with Perfetti on the wing and have Vladimir Nemesnikov in the middle with Iafallo down than what I've been seeing from them over the last couple of games. Ken, give Sweet Lou a shout out before we do our buy and sell segment.
Yeah, right on. For folks who have realty needs they'd like to have met, whether you're buying, selling, curious what the house in the corner is going for, contact our main man, Lou Ferlin, at Royal LePage Dynamic Realty, 204-791-9971, or at the office, 204-989-5000. His email is lou@louferlin.ca. That's LOU@LOUFURLAN.ca. Lou Ferlin, excellent realtor, excellent human being, and excellent supporter of the community, including this podcast.
Kenny, you buying or are you selling? What do you got?
Oh, what am I buying? I've been doing a lot of buying.
Hop in?
You go first. Yeah,
I'll hop in.
Let me collect my thoughts here. Yeah.
I'm buying Rick Bowness and the whole idea of how he's been handling the upper echelon teams, right? That was clearly a little bit of a block, maybe a mind block for the Winnipeg Jets, not getting to the upper echelon teams. I think a huge part of that is, again, the Jets have been a puck possession team. That's where they've had their success. And then they ran into a string of teams that just weren't allowing them to do that anymore. And they weren't finding a way to come out ahead of games. I go back to it. And I know because Ken, if you remember what happened, Rick Bowness came back. They had probably their best game of the year against Florida. Then they lost 3 straight. And all we saw in the chat room was people saying Rick Bowness has got to go and it's Scott Arniel's team and all this kind of stuff. No, what happened was he just happened to come back in the middle of a schedule where there were some challenges with some really great teams. Like anyone who doesn't realize how good the Edmonton Oilers are playing right now should probably realize that as good as they're playing, the Jets almost had them and then lost them in the last 6 minutes of the game or so. So it was a better game plan against them than most of the teams we've seen. If anyone missed look what the Jets did to Carolina and then look what the Oilers did to Carolina the very next game. The Oilers are a really good team right now. Jets almost had them. Same thing. The Dallas Stars, another team before that. So I think what happened was the Jets found a challenging part in the schedule. Everyone just looked at the fact that they'd won 5 straight games under Scott Arniel and kind of tried to discount what was happening, say that Rick Bowness was the problem. I'm buying that Rick Bowness very much knew what ailed the Winnipeg Jets, knew how to fix it, got them on board, and it's the reason for their last 2 wins here, Ken.
Yeah, I'm also going to be buying here. I'm buying Josh Morrissey. Sean, we've been talking for 3 years about Mark Scheifele going head-to-head with the likes of Austin Matthews, Connor McDavid, Leon Draisaitl. The list goes on and on.
I know what you're going to say.
In a game where Josh Morrissey spoke this morning about his training partner with Mike McIntyre, speaking about Cale Makar, I think Josh Morrissey was ready for a statement game of his own. You and I have been talking about the Norris Trophy quite a bit. In a game like this, where a team plays a team like the Avalanche, who have someone who has been on that trophy, and will be on that trophy again. Yeah, it is crazy. There is a mosquito in the garage here. It is annoying me. It's
MBHA, or no, sorry, T. Mackey says he's buying Kenny some mosquito repellent because Ken's been waving away at the mosquitoes.
Tremendous, just tremendous. Josh Morrissey tonight, GWG, and was on for all 4 even strength goals. Sorry, one was an extra attacker goal, but again, we don't necessarily put a whole lot of stock into plus minus, except when a player is on the ice for 4 goals for and none against. So Josh Morrissey, 1-1 for 2 tonight, 24-22, 29 shifts, 2 shots on goal, 3 shot attempts. I don't care what pairing you play on. If you play as much against Nathan MacKinnon as Josh Morrissey did tonight and you don't get scored on, that's a big effort. And when the other guy who's your buddy in Cale Makar doesn't really have a whole lot going on in the game. Yes, like I said, he was coming back from injury. Makar on for 2 against. He did have 4 shots on goal, 6 attempts, but I mean, Josh Morrissey was the best defenseman on the ice today, and it wasn't as close as it often is when a team has Devon Taves and Cale Makar in the lineup. So I'm buying on Josh Morrissey doing everything in his power to keep himself in the Norris Trophy conversation.
Hey, I couldn't agree with you more. And I'll say this, the idea, anyone out there who would have bet tonight that Josh Morrissey was going to be the best defenseman in a game where there are like a stacked list of defensemen in that game, that really paid off. And if you're looking to pay off high interest credit cards or debt, we suggest you go talk to our friends at Cambrian Credit Union about their payoff loan. They can show you how taking out a loan to pay off your debt actually gets you debt free faster, and you could save thousands of dollars. Go to cambrian.mb.ca to book an online appointment. Ken, I had wanted, go.
Just this one quick one here. Julie Sewer, not ignoring you, but there's not a whole lot to talk about right now with Nate Schmidt. He has sat out, but this isn't a Nate Schmidt's been playing terrible for 2 months, so they got to do something about it. Nate Schmidt's actually been pretty steady for the Winnipeg Jets. Right now, he kind of finds himself as the odd man out as they're trying to sort some things out in terms of what that 6th defenseman spot looks like. I don't know what to say. Like, they're not going to be trading him. They're not going to be putting him on waivers. They're not going to be sending him to the Manitoba Moose. Like, Nate Schmidt, he's not out of the competition. So there's just not a whole lot to go into this discussion right now. Logan Stanley hasn't, in his 2 or 3 games, planted the flag and said the job is mine. I mean, Rick Bowness said it after the game. You and I were talking about this. Like, Nathan MacKinnon turnstiles him at the end of his shift. Yeah. Nathan MacKinnon does that to Cale Makar occasionally in practice. So, does this mean he can't play? No, it means he was flat-footed and one of the fastest guys in the NHL blew by him like he was standing still. That happens to a lot of defensemen. You don't excuse him for it. You're not here to defend him. You're not here to say it didn't make any difference. But that's not a reason to say one thing or the other. There is a report from one of my former colleagues, Bruce Garriock, that other teams are kicking the tires. Could this be a showcase for Logan Stanley? Well, it's possible, but Sean, I would counter by saying if a team had made a offer for Logan Stanley in the summer, Logan Stanley has been available. So whether it was last year at the deadline or in the summertime. So I'm not saying the teams aren't calling, but I don't think the Jets are going to give him a 10-game run to think they can extract an asset from someone. Declan Chisholm is still in the competition, and in January, Ville Heinola may be in the competition. What does this mean for Nate Schmidt? It means he's got to be patient. I mean, he's been a healthy scratch for 3 games in a row, I think 5 on the year, but that doesn't mean that the Jets have lost faith in him. It means that he has, I think, 1 assist in 20 games, and they're trying to see if they're either going to change the composition of the back end or if ultimately he's going to prove to be the best candidate for that job and then see what happens, right? So, of course we're going to be talking about him, but there's no conclusion to be drawn. And to me, I know some people are saying, well, this is Rick Bowness telling Kevin Cheveldayoff, sending him a message. I don't see it that way. I don't see this as a message for this, his career with the Jets is over by any stretch. He's actually playing pretty decent hockey right now. So that pairing with Dylan Samberg had barely given up an even strength goal this entire year. But we've talked about this for years, Sean. if the Jets are going to change the complexion, they need to find out who else is available, what else do some of these guys have. And, ultimately they're going to have to decide if someone goes on waivers, whether that's Chisholm or Stanley or Schmidt. And if they don't, that means they're going to have to move somebody, especially when Hanel is ready to roll. So I appreciate the question. I don't think we have a firm answer right now is my counter.
I love the comment
Fair,
by
Julie, fair.
Sue, who says, for not a lot to talk about, Kenny sure found a lot to talk about. Hey,
fair enough.
I'm glad she brought it up. I'm glad you said what you said there, because I will say this, like, if I'm Nate Schmidt, I guess he probably has a better idea what the end game is, because I'm sure the coaches have talked with him quite a bit. But if we're in a situation where Declan Chisholm is, earning himself extra games and Logan Stanley is getting these tries, so I can only think the way that the organization talked about Ville Heinola before he went out, I can't see a path to Nate Schmidt being anything other than a fill-in guy. Like, we keep talking about the Jets going to the playoffs, where I firmly believe they're going to go. I'm not ready to give the Renny guarantee like I did last year after everyone was like, the sky was falling, and I said, don't worry, everybody. But I mean, I fully expect, and I'm very, very confident the Jets are going to the playoffs. And I do think that what we're looking at here is Schmidt heading down a road where he's looking to be a black ace in the playoffs. I don't know that. I think what you do is you take a look, and Ville Heinola is probably ahead of him now when he comes in. Listen, he's got to prove it. He proved it in camp. He needs to prove it at the
not
NHL
ahead of him
level.
now,
no. Not ahead of him right now. But when he comes back in, I would guess if the put it this way, if the organization is doing what it's doing right now to give Declan Chisholm the look that they're giving him and give Logan Stanley the look that they're giving him, they're going to be giving him the runway to show what he can do at this level. Not the T. Will thing, where T. Will suggests that the Jets tear down their chances just to give some random prospect an opportunity to show what he can do so he can make the team and make T. Will happy, but more along the lines of he's got to a place now where they feel that he can do what he's doing without potentially harming the team. I'm glad Julie Sue asked the question, because I do think that what we're seeing here from Nate Schmidt is he's been identified as the guy. It's not Brendan Dillon missing some games. It's not Dylan DeMello missing some games. When they need to tinker with their lineup and go with a different look, a heavier look, they're going with Logan Stanley. With a more kind of balanced look, they're going with Declan Chisholm. And probably if they want to have a more puck-moving offensive look when he gets back, they're going to be looking to Ville Heinola. That's three different styles of players that you can go to try and spell off Nate Schmidt. If I'm him, and he's a pro, we know he's going to handle this well, but boy, oh boy, it sure doesn't feel like the future in Winnipeg is the future that I'm sure he would want to be having in Winnipeg. We got to quickly retort, and then we got to get to our Johnston Group got you covered play of the game.
Yeah, no problem. I think I agree with what you're saying, but I also don't think there's been as much separation created as needs to be done if someone wants to supplant him in that job. So
right, which is just why I think the committee aspect is what I'm not liking upon him. I'm not looking and saying, this guy stole my job and that's the end of it. But the Jets keep looking at all these different kind of options, and what I would take away from that is I'm Schmidt is they must not like the option that I'm providing them right now if they're constantly testing out different options, right? If I'm my old 2007 Toyota Yaris and Rennie's out test driving a bunch of new cars, I'm probably not liking where it's heading out. Anyways, let's get to it. Johnston Group got you covered to play of the game. Ken, what do you got?
Yeah, we've been harping on the Jets, penalty kill throughout the season. I just thought that their play during the 5-on-3 is very important in this game. And I agree with you. It turned on a couple of different occasions, but for me, that ability to come through with the 5-on-3 at a time where Adam Lowry said it himself, in a 1-goal game, Colorado scores to tie it. It's still a power play for Colorado. So not only did they kill off the first front end of that with Morrissey in the box, they killed off the second penalty as well took the momentum right back. And after that, Colorado didn't really have a sniff really after that, Sean. So for me, that's what I'm choosing is the we've got you covered play of the game. It's the 47 seconds of the 5-on-3 time specifically, but in general, the 4-for-4 penalty kill by the Winnipeg Jets on this evening.
This is a night where the got you covered play of the game should go to a Winnipeg Jet, but I just saw a play out there that kind of just like it sort of blew my mind a little bit here. And it came from the Colorado Avalanche. Now, anyone know who Sam Malinsky is? We know that he's playing in that game, but he's not exactly one of those names that like rings out loudly. And we all know the theory by Paul Maurice when he was here that the fastest player on the Jets, even back in the days of Brandon Tanev and Nikolai Ehlers and Kyle Connor, that the fastest Winnipeg Jet is Mark Scheifele. Mark Scheifele has a step on Sam Malinsky, and he's essentially going in on a breakaway. And Sam Malinsky not only catches him, but he handily catches him. And I'm thinking to myself, how did he do it? How did he pull this off? Maybe I don't know enough about Sam Malinsky to know that he's a super speedy player, but it's not that, Ken. If you look back on the play, he gets a push from Bowen Byram, gets the stick on his back end and gives him the one-handed push, and it literally is like the Turbo Jets in the video game.
You pushed X.
Exactly, and he flies in, and I just have to say, like, for a younger style defenseman, Bowen Byram in that position, having the strength while he's in full stride to take a guy in full stride and give him the boost to like not only catch Scheifele but get position on Scheifele to essentially kill the play. I just thought that was a neat little play that happened in the game. So there you go. That is the Kenny and Renny OGs Johnson Group got you covered play of the game. And hey, do you run a small business in Canada? Look to Canada's #1 employee benefits plan, Chambers Plan, to give you a competitive edge. Chambers Plan is the simple, stable, smart choice for over 30,000 businesses countrywide. Visit chamberplan.ca to learn more. Okay, moving on now to the let's go. Yeah, let's do the keg. And let's do TCB. Yep. Larry TSG, I see you in there. Larry's been trying to get a hold of me. Your messages aren't getting through, Larry, but I was about to award a 16-pack of Frosty Delicious Lamplighter because I thought Larry hadn't got a hold of me, but because you're in the show, Larry, and letting me know you've been trying to get a hold of me, you're going to get it. We just got to figure out a way to get
Send it
through.
To me. My DMs are not blocked.
Oh, are my DMs blocked?
Once in a while.
Think of all the possibilities that I'm shutting down out there.
Well, technical difficulties, Sean. You know, it's been known to happen on occasion.
No doubt. So, Larry, I see you. I see you out there, Larry. You're going to get your thing, and we're giving away a Frosty Delicious 8-pack of Lamplighter Amber Ale today because of that. But first, what we got to do is share what we thought our TCB Lamplighters of the game were. Ken, what do you got?
I'm going Lowry goal, all because of the effort of two things. Gustafsson has to win the draw. He's out there against Rantanen and McKinnon late in the period. Axel Jonsson-Fjällby, ferocious forecheck. You know, this is a guy who's been a healthy scratch. He knows that once someone is healthy, he's probably the guy getting sent back to the Manitoba Moose. Yet he's out there disrupting things, stealing the puck from one of the best defensemen in the National Hockey League, and finding Adam Lowry for an absolute snipe show with 2.2 seconds to go in the first period. It's an important goal for the Winnipeg Jets on so many fronts. And even though there were a couple of really pretty goals in the game, that is one that is pretty in its own way and sort of emblematic of how the Jets have sort of started to get themselves going here. And I think that lamplighter of the game is going to be my lamplighter.
To me, it's the most important goal of the game. But to me, it's the most unforgivable goal of the game. Like if you're Jared
totally
Bednar,
fair. Yeah.
You are absolutely livid that happens. And to me, it changes the complexion of the game. And I also think it's the biggest reason why this game took the path that it did. Like this is a choose your own adventure book. And when the Jets get the first goal against a team like that, it allows them to play an entirely different style. And one of the reasons they win in just an unforgivable puck that's coughed up. It never should have been moved. So I can't give it that. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to give it to Kyle Connor's second goal of the game. And the reason I will do that is this is just one of these like great players knowing where great players are, a great player finding a great player, and then that great player just having this understanding of where the net is to kind of do the spin around and throw the puck in the back of the net there. I think it's important because on a night where the Jets were had the better structure, had the better depth, had the better goaltender and all that kind of stuff. And it was still a close game because there was a member of the other team who almost skilled and willed his team right back into it. The Jets, on top of having a hustle goal in the first one, on top of having a grind goal with their third one, they got a skill goal of their own. And so what it was is they used 3 different kind of styles of play. The Colorado Avalanche only had one style of play to score tonight, and that was like a guy just playing absolutely out of his mind. Other than that, they didn't really have a lot going on. So that's why I give my lamplighter of the game to the Kyle Connor second goal of the game, and 3 goals in his last 2 games, starting to push himself back into the conversation for the Rocket Richard Trophy. Anyways, that's my lamplighter of the game. You should share with us your lamplighter of the game. If you do, you'll automatically be entered to win a frosty, delicious 8-pack of Lamplighter Amber Ale, brought to you by our friends at TransCanada Brewing Company. You can't wait for Kenny and Renny to gift you your 8-pack. Head on down to TransCanada Brewing Company and join them in their tap room at 11290 Kenniston, where we will be having last call, everybody, the Kenny and Renny Christmas/holiday party, the December to remember party, the December to dismember party. We got a good crowd going there, people. A lot of really good people going there as well. Tristan Rivers got a hold of me. He's bringing a crew. He asked me if he needed to buy a ticket. I said Tristan Rivers will never pay for a ticket in his life to a Kenny and Renny event. We can never pay him back for what he's done with us, for all the awesome music that he's put on this podcast. So you will see him there. If you are, here it is. Here's the link, everybody. Go to Eventbrite. Check it out. If you can't copy this and put it into a search, just search Kenny and Renny December 10th Eventbrite. It'll pop up there. If you have been sitting on the fence trying to decide
just in case it looks like we lost Sean here. So folks, we've got over 70 people already committed for tickets for our first big show party during a regular season event here. So we'd love to have you hit something close to the 100 level. I mean, I understand that that's a lot of people, but we're already at 70 plus here, which is a fantastic number. Thanks to everyone who's already signed up for the event. We're going to have a great time for the game between the Jets and Ducks, and that's how you get your tickets. We'd love to have a few more people get on board and join us here for Sunday's excellent event, excellent adventure.
Get on board, get off the fence is what we're saying here. Don't make me come up there and drag you off that fence, people. It's going to be a great crowd. Come on down, make it even better. Let's jam pack that place. It's already a phenomenal crowd. It's going to be a real big one. Let's make it even bigger. Let's show them what the Kenny and Renny community can do. Let's get to it. Jeff Beam, Boehm,
maybe.
Jeff Boehm, you are the winner of the TCB Lamplighter of the game last game. So you know what to do. Direct message me, not the keg, direct message me at SN Sean Reynolds. I need your full name. I need your email address, and I will send you a voucher for a frosty, delicious 8-pack of Lamplighter Amber Ale, brought to you by our friends at TransCanada Brewing Company, the absolute nectar of the gods. Ken, this time of night, this time of the show, every time, I think as soon as we hit an hour, I should plug more change
tokens
into the internet meter
in the arcade, buddy. Into the arcade.
Exactly.
Teenager visiting the arcade here. Okay.
No doubt.
I love it.
Okay. And let's get to our keg save of the game. What do you got?
Yeah, I'm going with the Connor Hellebuck double kick, kung fu fighting, two left pad saves on Frederick Olofsson during the second period flurry there late in the contest. So that's what I got.
Okay, I like it.
There were
I'm
a
not
few
gonna
nice
argue
ones,
with
but
it.
that was a pretty good sequence for the Jets.
That is
250th win for Connor Hellebuck today, by the way.
Well, and you know what? I'm just going to say this quickly. I think this is one of those nights where there's not an obvious candidate for the keg save of the game, because I'll say this, that one of the other things, that prove, like in my mind, proves that this was a different game, where I thought the Carolina Hurricanes, I thought, were the better team against the Jets, but the Jets win that game tonight. I think the Jets are clearly the better team, as they beat, the scores look the same, but in one game, the Jets were, outpaced by a team, still beat them. In this game, they outpaced the other team, and maybe it was a little closer than it should have been. But listen, Connor Hellebuck did not have to put up a performance like Laurent Brossoit put up in his last game. And the reason he did is because the Winnipeg Jets protected the house well. They didn't make his job very difficult on him. This is another win for the Rick Bonus system, the Rick Bonus structure. Call it the got you covered, call it the save of the game, call it the lamplighter. Rick Bonus has this team playing a sustainable style of hockey that is making them one of the most ferocious teams in the NHL right now, and so far this season. Anyways, keg save of the game, the winner from last show, that would be D-Mart. D-Mart, you have won yourself a $50 gift certificate to any of the three fine locations of the keg in Winnipeg, each location finer than the last, but you got to claim it first. Direct message me at SN Sean Reynolds, full name, address, and I will send you a $50 gift certificate for the keg, which, Ken, we are getting so close. Next week, Ken, myself, Mrs. Renny, and Mrs. Kenny, all heading out. Ms. Kenny, I don't know, however we want to say it, are going to go out. It's going to be an absolute great time. Going to be a ton of fun. Everyone get a hold of us. That's it for us, guys. Tracy O'Kranick says, is there a dress code on Sunday? I'd like to ban Kenny support shirts if I could. We tried. I brought it up in our annual general
Maybe
meeting.
a wake up shirt.
It was a hung
buddy.
jury. There was one vote for, one against. It didn't roll one of our way. But anyways, whatever's happening, just make sure you come to have a good time and enjoy yourself, because that's exactly what we're going to do. It's going to be a lot of a really, really good time. So we can't wait to see you all there. So that's the next place you're going to see us. If you're not there enjoying our company live at the party, you will be seeing us at the live event, which is going to be an absolute blast. Before we do go today, though, I just want to say, if you appreciate the conversations happening in this space, please appreciate our sponsors who fight to keep the conversation going in this space for us. That's Vittorio Rossi, Pristine Roofing, Sweet Lou Furlan, Cambridge Credit Union, the Johnston Group, the Keg, and of course, TransCanada Brewing Company, where we will be having the Kenny and Renny event of the... We've had some pretty big events this year. It's going to be the last big Kenny and Renny event of the year, though. Love to see you there. Get off the fence, people. Get off the fence. Hop off it and head on down to TransCanada Brewing Company on Sunday. It's going to be a blast. We hope to see you there. Have a good one, everybody.